Well, maybe one of the biggest things, to tell you the truth, are women. There's a whole lot more women coming to the store now than there was 20 to 40 years ago. It's almost an even split, which is kind of crazy and very exciting, really. We have more women writers in comics. There weren't that many years ago, and they appeal to women now.
This week's episode is brought to you by our friends at Manage Comics. Are you tired of outdated, clunky software running your shop? Manage Comics is the modern solution for comic store owners who want a smarter, easier way to manage their shop. It's built on Shopify, the world's #1 e-commerce platform, with an integrated POS system. Manage Comics saves you time and makes more money by giving customers the power to manage their own subscriptions. Upgrade to a simpler system that works for you, not against you. And I'm going to go off script in here and say, I love Manage Comics. There are other solutions out there that are also really good, but there's a reason that we're so close to Brian Garside and work with him and his team. Manage Comics is a really wonderful tool for any comic shop owner. You should join their next webinar and see the difference for yourself. Visit managecomics.com/webinar today. And make sure you told them that we sent you. Hi, welcome to Comic Industry Insiders. My name is Adam Freeman, and I get to talk to the people behind the scenes of the comic book industry and get to wring them dry for all of their knowledge to make your business or career in comics that much better. And as a result of that, I get a chance to, on this show, talk to people who I have known for literal decades. Friends, and I will say in some cases like parasocial friends, people you meet online and maybe see once or twice a year, but are always out there doing the kind of work that you love, and you feel a kinship to them when you see them. And nobody fits that bill like my buddy Wayne WINSETT. And Wayne, welcome to the show. Welcome to the next portion, the next chapter of your life at post being a comics retailer. How does that feel? I will say we're recording this on a Wednesday. It occurs to me, and the idea of talking to a comic book retailer on a Wednesday about not buying comics is so strange. Unless you're in the store, you just don't talk to comics retailers on a Wednesday. How does it feel to not be at a shop on a Wednesday?
I kind of feel weird. I mean, I've been doing this for over 40 years and not being there, especially today. I mean, this is a historic day in all our lives, really.
I know.
And you want to be there to talk about this with your customers because they've been watching and following this very, very closely for
Yeah.
weeks and weeks now. So it does feel strange, but as soon as this is over, I will head in there because I've been helping out the new owners,
Oh, that's nice.
for a while until they get, their legs under them and know everything. I'm a consultant for 6 months. I sold the store at the end of December, 1st of January. So,
Right.
I'll be helping them as much as I can. I did a stream sale, Facebook live stream sale for them last night. And,
Wow.
I'm just trying to help out as much as I possibly can. But it's going to be strange not being involved with the comics medium, every Wednesday going forward.
I can only imagine how that must feel. I mean, you said, you spent 40 years on Time Warp. I do want to get into the history of that and, kind of how you grew this thing that now is touching other people's lives so much. But before that, we should probably deal with what you just talked about, which is, I often don't know when we're going to post these interviews because they come out once a week, and this is the second one I've done this week. But so this week is actually, we found out who has purchased the Diamond Comics assets out of bankruptcy. And that's the Alliance Entertainment Group, the massive distribution company that is What's your take on that? Like, how are you feeling? What do you see?
Well, I'm going to say cautious optimism, of course. I think a lot of people have that right now. I'm one of those people. I've been watching all the retailer Facebook groups very carefully the last few days,
I
especially
bet.
today. And I'm not the only one that actually never heard of Alliance Entertainment Group. I everybody's getting them mixed up with Alliance Games, which is
Yep.
completely different. So uh, now that I've done some research on them, I'm kind of excited uh, and hopeful for the future. Of course, I hope this all works out for the betterment of the whole industry. But the comics part of it's just a little bit fuzzy still.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping and praying that this is a good thing for us.
I think so. I mean, to my mind, from where I sit, I feel like if we had not gone through the last, you know, 3 years of the shift away from Diamond being our only distribution choice, this would be scarier, right? This would be like, oh well, who are these guys who have just been gobbled up by this monolith, and they're not going to care at all about single issue comics. And if that's true, we'll survive. Because we've gone through these last 3 years, right? We've got Lunar and we've got PRH. Between them, the stores will be fine. It'll just take a while to get everything back to a new normal.
A new normal, yeah.
Wow, I have no doubt about that. What is the general vibe on the retailer boards? I don't get to see those much anymore.
Um, the same thing I just said, the cautious optimism. Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody wants to know more. Since this just went down yesterday, there's a lot of questions out there, and everybody is trying to find out who knows what, when, and
yeah,
how to share it, and how to, everybody wants to be first to break the news.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, when the bankruptcy started, we immediately went to a live show, and I'm planning a weekly live show starting next week. And we said, should we just rush it and do it this week? I'm like, we're not gonna have anything to say. Nobody knows anything yet. There's a press
That's why I
release.
reached out last night and sent an email to you guys. Do you really want to do this? Because this is a huge shift in the
Yeah,
world right now. I was like, well, that's way more important than what I'm thinking right now.
I disagree. I think for many reasons, because I do think you were an indicator of what the general world of comics retail is looking like. Right, there is a generational shift that's happening right now, and when those are happening in such a wonderfully pleasant way that Time Warp is going through, that I think that's something that we absolutely need to be talking about and celebrating. But yeah, I think if we had done the live show, or if I had booked a guest just to talk about it, it would be like, I don't know, it'd be like doing CNN on the day of a big massive thing where you're just sitting around going, I don't know, what do you think about this? Well, I don't know either, but what do you think? Nobody wants that either, but it's a tough one. Let's get back to what we do know. So you've 40 years as a retailer. Was it 40 even? How many years was it total? When did you
Well,
start Time Warp?
I started Time Warp September of 1984.
Okay.
I bought Time Warp from Mile High Comics. I don't know how many people know that,
I
but
did
back,
not.
back in the early 80s, Mile High said that they were going to get out of retail business, period, and just concentrate on online. And at
Yeah.
that time, Mile High had uh, 5 stores, and Chuck Rosansky, the owner of Mile High, offered all the managers to be able to buy his stores. So all of us did it. I was going through a rough divorce at the time, and was kind of not knowing what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And this opportunity presented itself, and my parents and attorney and everybody said, "Don't do it. You're just getting enough rope to hang yourself with this." It was a 10-year affiliate. Um,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I paid Mile High for 10 years. Uh,
So it was like an owner financed sale, right? So you're paying them off monthly. Is that how
Yeah,
that goes? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing I'm doing right now, basically.
Gotcha.
And
That's smart. It's a very common move, really, with
well,
stores. It's how I bought my store. Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
really have a choice. The Small Business Administration doesn't really want to loan that much money
Right.
to our type of business because it's sketchy to them.
Yeah.
Banks, comic books, no, that's silly. So you kind of had to, and yeah, I did that for 10 years, and before that, I worked for Mile High Comics for 6 years. Became the manager, and Chuck was in my back room, and I pretty much had to learn everything I knew about comics from him, and
Wow.
and that was really good for me because, as we all know, he's a sharp cookie.
He
He
is a
knows,
sharp cookie. Even today, man, he
yeah.
is. He is a whip smart.
So well, he taught me a lot, and then I after I paid my dues for 10 years, the store was completely mine, and I wasn't an affiliate of Mile High anymore. So in the last 30 years, I've been on my own and not associated with them. And so that's
so 80. All right. So all right, 84 is when you began that affiliate. So it means you started working for him in 78,
mhm,
right?
right, right.
What were comics like in 78? Did you just get this is this like a part-time job for you at first? How's this frog get boiled into a 40-year ownership?
That's a good question. I was going to medical school at the University of Colorado. I wanted to be a physician assistant,
Okay.
specifically a child health associate. And I was going to CU, and I stopped in at Mile High Comics when I first moved to Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of my semesters, when I had off in the summer, the manager of Mile High at that time, Steve Swink, offered me a part-time job to see if I wanted to work there over the summer until the next semester started. And I said, sure. And I've been there ever since. Never went back to medical school. I never got my degree. Um, and I've never looked back. Basically, it just I loved working there. I've loved comics since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
When I started reading them, helped me learn how to read. I've loved it ever since. I still love it just as much now as I did when I was 6 years old.
Aw,
So,
that's really wonderful.
does
That's
that
really
answer
wonderful.
your question?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, okay, so 70, all right, so you worked there from 78 to 84, and he offers to sell you the business in 84. What does the comics industry look like? I mean, because we're like a year out from Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, a year or two
Right.
out.
Right.
What does comics look like in 84 when you're making the decision to take this job that went from a full-time, I guess, to a management full-time job, but like that is like you're really putting your chips on the line there.
Yeah, I did. And, everything was so different then.
Yeah.
I had one female customer, for instance, for
Oh wow.
years. We had single digit sales for some time. Uh, you know, there was no computers, no internet, no
Yeah.
cell phones. We did everything by hand, basically. I didn't have, um, a cash register until Carol Kalish came along and insisted that we all have cash registers, and she was right. And
She was right. Yeah.
before that, I had an adding machine and a cash box. That's how we did sales. And
Wow.
we had files just like we do now to
Yeah.
reserve for people, and we had to do it on little 3x5 cards in pencil because people would add and delete stuff all the time. And since we didn't have a computer or anything like that, it was all, you know, it's kind of like, chiseling on rock.
You know,
That
the little papyrus reads, and you were,
yeah,
hitting mud with them. Yeah, that's awesome.
it was
Um,
it was kind of sad.
yeah,
But it,
but you
it
made it. I mean, you guys made it happen, right? Uh, it-
yeah,
I will say, every time her name comes up, I have to reiterate my lobbying for I believe that Comics Pro, they have an annual award that they give out for like industry professional that like supports comics retail. And I firmly believe and will continue to lobby until somebody gives in or I lose the platform that award should be named after Carol Kalish. Because if there's one person who used their platform, their ability to raise up comics retailers, it was that one. Like she came in along at a crucial time and used every tool she had.
Oh my God, she was amazing. And,
Yeah.
Retailers now in the last 20 years, most of them, don't even know who Carol Kalish
Right.
was.
Exactly.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Do some research out there, guys, and look her up and find out how important she really was.
She truly, truly, truly was. Yeah. Well, so I'm so glad you mentioned her because it gave me a chance to I always want to hit that whenever we get an opportunity. So you're there, but what is it like? Is it like a thriving business? I mean, compare that business that you were in, despite the lack of tools and like management software and all of the, CRM and POS machines. Forget all of that. What was the business itself? Was it much different than it is now?
Well, yeah, everything was different. For instance, when I first started out, uh, the time warp name that I have, uh, there you go,
Uh-huh.
was specifically because we also had science fiction and fantasy books. So there were no, Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. All you had was comic books back then.
Yeah.
And we also had the science fiction fantasy books, which was something I was really, really into back then. I'm a huge Philip K. Dick fan, for
Oh,
instance.
right. Yeah.
And I love that aspect of our business, and that kept us going until the Barnes and Nobles and the Borders of the world started popping up and doing a much
True.
more efficient job than we could possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed that aspect of the business back then. It was very, very different. In comics, they were getting more and more popular slowly but surely with, more than just Marvel and DC popping up. And then we had Firsts and Pacific and all those other publishers starting out. And they were very exciting at the time because they were so different than what Marvel and DC and Dell and Gold Key and all those guys were offering. So that was pretty exciting place to be as it expanded, because I was totally into all that stuff too. The Rocketeer when it came out,
Oh, yeah.
very, very exciting, and all that, fringe stuff that just started happening out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think people are calling it the black and white boom of that period,
Oof,
like where we
oof.
saw a lot of like really indie stuff, right?
And a
Yeah.
lot of it was great. Look at
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out of
I mean,
nowhere,
seriously.
and look what
Seriously.
that is now.
Yeah. It is one
Holy
of the biggest brands in the world
I
in
know, and that
history.
was a black
Yeah.
and white joke. Everybody thought, "Oh, this is just goofy, and this will never take off. This is not going to be anything." And
Yeah.
Cerebus, that was fantastic back then, and it was just so much exciting stuff. Although there was Drek too.
Oh,
There were
sure.
a
Sure.
ton of terrible black and white comics also.
What was do you think you still read a lot of comics? Is that still part of
I
your
wouldn't
daily
say a
diet?
lot of comics. I'm down to reading maybe a half a dozen to a dozen a week now.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to read more, but there's life,
Yeah, I get it. I totally get that. Do you think that there is you talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles makes me wonder about if there is something like that that's new that you feel like, oh, this has got the magic. This could be it. When's
Yeah,
the last time you read something like that?
Image Comics does that for
Yeah.
me. When Saga came out, for instance, a few years
Mm-hmm.
ago, that changed everything for us. I mean, but it's still a huge. I think it's still one of our two or three best sellers every month.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes out
When
every
it
month.
comes out.
But I think Image has really, really done a great job. The new Ghost Machine stuff is exciting a lot of people, for instance.
Yeah.
The one thing I kind of feel guilty about all these years is I keep saying we're going through a golden age. And
Yeah.
I've been saying that for 40 years because there's always something exciting out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and a good comic retailer can steer you towards those great titles that maybe
True.
you're just not aware of. And there's so many of them.
So
You
many
know,
of them. And that is, I mean, that's the beauty of a comics retailer really is that there's such a broad list every single week. There's such a broad list that nobody can navigate all of it on their own. You need somebody to guide you through it. And having somebody who knows your tastes and knows what's available, like it's magic if you love comics. It's just the only way to really explore. You just can't get that kind of feeling online, you
right?
know? I was just talking with somebody yesterday, Kurt Hassler from Yen Press, who was talking about how we don't really get that discoverability online, right? There is no, oh, you like this, so you like this. The algorithm thinks it knows
Right.
because this guy liked it, so therefore that guy is going to like it, but it doesn't know it doesn't know you.
Right.
And so getting to know somebody and knowing, oh, I know who's going to love this book. Like that's, as a comics retailer, that's such a wonderful, like, that's juice right there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Right.
These retailers are responsible for turning people
That's
on to
right.
great literature. It's our
Thank you.
mission.
It is your mission. And we're all so very glad that you guys are out there doing this every day. Um, so, and you were there during a period, as I said, like, we had Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. We had this kind of move towards the superheroes themselves beginning to shift, like in those late 80s, and then obviously that boom of the early 90s. You must have felt like, oh, haha, mom and dad, look at where I'm at, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It was very exciting, but it didn't turn out so well after all. It looked exciting and just, oh, I'm going to be rich at that point, and then yeah, it just fell off the face of the earth after that.
Were you ever tempted to start Time Warp 2, Time Warp 3, the
Yeah, well, we did. We had a
okay.
Time Warp 2,
Okay.
another location in Louisville, Colorado, which is about 10 minutes outside Boulder. We had a store in Longmont, Colorado, which also is about 10 minutes from Boulder. And then we had a couple of boutiques up in Estes Park,
My
Colorado.
goodness.
So we tried a lot of different things back in those days, actually,
I
those
bet. I
early
bet.
exciting 80s, late 80s. And they were all fairly successful off and on, but, you know, there's nothing like having one store where everything is in and is working well. I always wanted, I didn't want to stretch myself too thin. And,
Yeah.
like a lot of retailers, probably I'm kind of maybe a power freak or something. I have to
Yeah.
be in control of everything all the
Yeah.
time. And so, we tried several different things, but one good store is the most important thing to me, really.
How long has it been since you tried one of those experiments? For how long?
15 years.
Oh,
We
okay.
merged, coincidentally, the little Boulder store I was in and the Longmont store I was in, which was much bigger. Their leases ended the same month in September 15 years ago. So I just found a bigger location in Boulder and merged both of them into one big store. And when I say big store, it's 2,800 square feet, which is not huge.
That's a big store, though. I mean,
It's a good size. And the
I'd say
new one,
most like neighborhood comic shops, the bigger ones that we think of as comic shops, tend to they go in like 1,200 to 2,000 square feet. So at least 50% bigger than that. So yeah.
well, we're actually moving the Time Warp location here in 2 weeks
Oh,
to
okay.
a bigger location in Boulder that's 4,000 square feet.
Well, there you go.
And
There
that'll
you go.
be just right.
There you go. That'll be just right.
be there for a really long time there, hopefully, That's gonna
uh,
be the 5th location
fifth
in 40
location.
years, yeah.
Yeah. I think that in the end of the day, my old store, bad idea. A bad idea. Oh wow. My old store, Brave New World. So
That's
many things I've done, so many dumb names I have promoted over the years. Brave New World, I think we had, oh gosh, at least 6 locations before it finally closed, without me. Thank you. I was, at least I kept the doors open. So
yeah, good job.
thank you. But yeah, well, congratulations. I think that that's definitely a life well spent. Um, but I'm really interested to know kind of where in the cycle you think comics is now. I mean, you've now seen sort of the boom and bust and, the cycling through. We've had a lot of conversations recently about the difference between collectible markets and content markets, and, how those two pivot off of each other. Now one will rise up and the other will come down, and it's really bad when they're both down. But having seen that, do you have any thoughts about where the comics market itself is today?
I think it's still healthy and growing. I think we still have a lot of opportunities. Um, I've always been a half glass full kind of guy, so
Yeah,
I always look on the bright side. I'm always very optimistic for the future. And there's so many good books out there, and there's so many people that care, so many smart people
yeah,
that want this to thrive and survive. And the collectibility aspect is still a real thing.
yeah,
As you see magazines going away and things like that. I mean, the one thing that has really helped us all these generations is people collect them and they want to keep them and they want to get the next issue, and it's kind of like a soap opera in a way. We're really involved with these characters. We care about the characters. We want to see where they're going and what they're doing. They're almost like family.
yeah,
Uh, it's just it's something very, very personal to a lot of us, and we want to see not only that this continues, but it thrives, and that's very, very possible. With manga is a great thing for us, and that's still growing, and with all the different distributors right now concentrating and doing, I think, a pretty good job of getting the product out there, that it's still going to thrive and grow. I'm positive that this is not going to just go away
yeah.
overnight for many reasons. Too many people care. There's too many of us that are on the front lines pushing and pushing and trying to grow this. So I'm still very optimistic for the future. I don't know if that answers your question or
I
not,
think
but
so. No, it is very much so. Um, I'm really, I mean, I'd like to go back and talk about maybe what sort, maybe times where you thought this wasn't going to work, right? Because we've all gone through the valley of the darkness. But um, I think let's touch, since we're already here, let's talk about where we are both in relation to the audience and to the industry. So what does the audience in Time Warp look like now, and how does that like look different than it did, say, 20 years ago or 40 years ago?
well, maybe one of the biggest things, to tell you the truth, are women. There's a
Yeah.
whole lot more women coming to the store now than there was 20 to 40 years ago. It's
Hmm.
almost an even split, which is kind of crazy and
Yeah.
very exciting, really. We have more women writers in comics. There weren't that many, many, many years ago, and they appeal to women now. And we've always had a really diverse group of people in Boulder. Kids up to people my age and older right now still are good customers, and it's all demographics, kids and rich people, poor people, just people that want to escape reality, whatever. There's just we're in a college town, so we have a lot of college students, of course, and the University of Colorado has always had many graphic novel courses that we've been a part of for the last probably 15, 20 years now. CU really is really good about helping us with textbooks, basically, that we help
Yeah.
bring in the students, and we give them a discount. And many great books over the years are the Watchmen's and the Dark Knights are still being studied on college campuses.
Yeah.
That's always really, really a positive thing for us. But we have a very, very diverse crowd of people in Boulder. So you just gotta, get out to them, tell them what you've got for them.
How are you guys? How are you? So tell me about the new owners, the kind of energy that they're bringing to. Actually, let's go back. I'm realizing now I missed a part of my second part of my question, so I'm going to put the pin on the new owners, and I'm going to go back to that. So let's talk about the industry of comics. We talked about Carol Kalish and her investment of what she had, the resources that she had into the direct market. Where do you see the publishers, the people, the Carol Kalishes of the world? How are they interacting with retailers, and who do you see as doing it, or you would say doing it right? Who would you say is maybe a little more frustrating that you would like? Like, do you have any takes there on dealing with your biggest vendors?
Well, that's an interesting question. All of us that are taking part in these podcasts and all, we all know what's going on right now, which is very little communication with anybody. We're kind
Yeah.
of all out on a ledge by ourselves in the retail community on the lowest rung. And, I don't know of too many people championing, if that's a word, our cause right now. I mean, diamonds, whatever it is right now. Hopefully, those good employees that work there that we like will stay there and help with the transition. But you know, trying to talk to Marvel, trying to talk to DC, anybody right now is very, very frustrating. I mean, even Lunar, one of our distributors, you can't call them. You can email them, but there's no customer service to speak of like we had many years ago. We had great reps at DC, the Stuart Trecks of the world type,
Mm-hmm.
and all those guys that have been really championing our causes all these years. They're hard to get in touch with. Stuart, you can always talk to, but uh,
he's still a diamond at the moment.
yeah, we're doing a great job. He always
Yeah.
has, and the guys that are out there that you can get in touch with do a great job for us. But
Yeah.
it's kind of frustrating to find the right answers from the right people right now because you don't know who you're really dealing with. I,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have some suggestions on who we should try and talk to, but it's kind of a roller coaster right now when it comes to communication with the different publishers. I don't know if anybody's really out there pushing really, really hard for us.
I think it's going to be really difficult for them in that there's no good platform to communicate right now.
Hmm.
I would say that, Comics Pro has attempted over the years to provide that kind of platform, but
They're doing a great job.
yeah, I would say that but it's a tough gig, right? It's a tough gig being that conversation through. And I would say that in many ways, I think retailers have kind of shot themselves in the foot too. Like I know I wouldn't want to be on a call like that where I wouldn't want to be on the other end of a number for retailers who could call me with being angry every week. You know,
Mhm.
that's psychically, that's a tough job, right? I can
It
only
is.
imagine how the Nance Romers of the world, kind of get through the week,
Oh my God, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So I think there's a tough, too much availability is probably not possible anymore. But how do you communicate direct to the consumer? That's or direct to the retailers. It's a really interesting question. It's
Well, yeah, and some of the publishers are reaching out. They do calls. A lot of them do calls weekly with creators,
yep.
trying to pump their books. But I haven't really had enough time to watch or listen or participate in those as much as we'd like. We're also damn busy, Adam.
Yeah, I know.
There's so many fine details to go through right now with all the different distributors and everything. Ordering is a frickin' nightmare nowadays.
Yeah.
Trying to traverse through all these different publishers and all. So we're all super super busy and stressed out, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, then that makes it difficult to communicate too, right? So, like, if we can't get together one time during the week to talk because you're too busy to talk, then you're going to get frustrated because you want your answer, but you need your answer when you need it, when it's asynchronous to that other person who is, trying to sell their books, which is their job, right? It's a real difficult problem to solve. I think everybody's jobs have gotten so much more complicated in order to do the same amount of work. Right?
Yeah, it's not just us. It's the publishers, the distributors, everybody.
Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
feeling it. We're all in the same, boat right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe me, I feel that so deeply. It's been one of those weeks we were just talking about how, there's no this is just one of those weeks where everything is on fire all week long. So
Yeah, even yesterday, on top of everything else, I was reading about alien books kind of going with IDW all of a sudden out of nowhere. It's like, what?
yeah, yeah. That's an interesting case study, man. That publisher is such a fascinating case study,
Yeah.
and see how that has bounced around. As somebody who's been so close to the Valiant brand, I've been
Yes.
watching that for a long time. It's really fascinating. But yeah, that kind of thing is, if you are invested in that part of the conversation, there's so much that's coming at you at the same time that the literal world is on fire. Like, the government of our country is on fire, and it's how do you process that? And everybody is dealing with processing that. The retailers are, the publishers are, the distributors, my God, are they? So I can only feel that for, I think we're all kind of trying to give each other as much grace as we can, but yeah, it's tough. I don't know how we glean that particular
Well,
cube.
we're all also watching very carefully what's going on with the tariffs. Speaking
Yes.
with the government, that's
Yeah.
that's certainly not a positive thing for us right now at all.
No, it
And
is
it's not
not.
going to be. Amazon, with their graphic novel stuff and all that, that's they're taking a piece of the pie too. So
Yeah, but I there again, I just feel like they are. I don't know. See, I do go back and forth. On the one hand, I had somebody make the point that when trading card markets locked in a minimum advertised price, right, an MAP, like, they were able to sell so much more because they were able to incentivize the retailers that were selling them at a full retail.
right.
And I understand that to a point. I think that there's a difference. And I hear what you're saying. When the economy goes down, people want to continue to get comics, but the experience of getting a box from DCBS once a month can't compare to going to a comic shop.
I agree 100%.
Right? It's not the same experience that they're paying for.
Right.
And it's the experience that they are actually investing in. It's not the stuff. I don't know. I'm of two very solid minds. I got to argue really hard on either side.
Yeah. 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 It's true. You're right.
All right. So we were talking about. Oh yeah, we were talking about the publishers and how difficult it is to handle that messaging. Is there anybody who jumps out at you as is handling that right now? Like, who are the bright spots in our industry that you feel like are, really kind of cut through?
I don't know. You
Wow.
probably would have a better idea than I do. There's
No,
so
it's
many, there's so many different publishers,
sure.
and they're all trying their best to entice you to buy their products. And I really can't think of anybody particular. Give me some suggestions, and I'll say, yeah, they're doing a great job, or they're not doing a great job, or
Oh,
I,
okay. Let's see.
there's no shooting out.
We've talked about Marvel. You don't your struggles with Marvel. DC. We talked about DC. Image, like Image Central. Do you have any? You talked about Ghost Machine and Saga, but like, how is your interaction with, say, the Image Central crew? Do you think?
Very good. When
Yeah,
when I need anything from them, they always step up. There's no doubt about that.
yeah,
I really, really like Image and respect Image, and all the guys I know there.
yeah.
They're great people and they care, and they've got great products. So
And that second group, you've got kind of the Boom, IDW, Dark Horse. Who else would we put in that crew?
Oni maybe.
Oni, maybe. Yeah, they almost make that. Distillery, I think, occasionally goes in and out of that group.
Yeah,
Anybody in that group really?
they're always accessible.
Yeah,
If you reach out, you have to reach out. You're
yeah.
not going to get anything if you don't reach out to them, probably. I don't know if that's exactly true or not, but they're overwhelmed too. So it's very hard for them to communicate with us. Also,
Oh, that's
there's
very, very true.
there's the final order cutoff that's on Facebook that most
Yeah,
of the retailers are part of, and we all check that out. That's not quite as good a platform as it used to be, but it's still there and it's still positive and it still can probably help us out more in the future. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm hopeful. I think that there's opportunities for other places. Facebook itself is such a problematic platform for so many people that I'm hopeful that we can kind of create other places for that conversation. Okay, so let's talk about looking back. You've sold this business, right? You are in the process of selling this business, rather. Looking back over periods, was there any time where this felt like, okay, maybe mom and dad were right? Maybe it's time for me to go back to medical school. Like, is there a point where you're thinking, all right, it's time for me to go and get a real job?
no.
No, never once.
No, I never did. I wanted to see it through to the end.
Yeah.
I always was. There were a lot of dark periods, as you know,
Oh,
and
sure.
how we got through that. I don't know. It's one of those things I put out of my mind. I always try and think positive and don't dwell on the negative. So it was there, but I never wanted to give up. I think I've had a fear of failure all these years. I didn't want them to be right. So I fought really hard to make sure I survived. And, the first 10 years when I was paying Mile High, very, very lean, it was
Oh, sure.
just macaroni and cheese for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a while,
My goodness.
Um,
For
that,
10 years.
yeah, and you think I'm exaggerating, but it was tough.
Well, I mean, I assume there's some exaggeration, but I also know that that's, how lean it can get. Yeah, I've lived through some of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I lived in the back of my store. I had an apartment back there, and I just lived there. And I'd be out there, 2 o'clock in the morning, filing science fiction and fantasy books up in the galley. So that it's just I've always
Uh,
been part of this, and I could never give up. I never even thought about giving up.
that's wonderful. I
I
love that. I
I
love
just
that.
knew there was always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I believe in comics and I believe in this industry. I always have and I always will.
I have no doubt about that. So then at some point you make the decision to sell. Is this something where you went looking for a buyer, or did they approach you? Had you been looking for someone? It was an exit strategy.
Boy, that I was just I did a succession talk at the Comics Pro meeting last month, and exit strategy was one of my topics that I really wanted to concentrate on, because
Yeah.
I talked about our beloved President George Bush when he decided to invade Iraq, and he had no exit strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was always in the back of my mind all these years, is you have to have an exit strategy. And one of the other things I said was,
Yeah.
he who failed to plan to fail.
Sure.
So you have to really figure out what your end game is. And for me, it was kind of thrust upon me as I've been married a couple times or so, and my second wife, who was with me most of the time I have owned Time Warp, when she and I got divorced, it was agreed upon in our agreement that I would try and sell the store at retirement age, which was 65, 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and then she would get her piece of the pie, because
Mm-hmm.
she was married to me, so she deserved, a payout. So at 65, I started the process of trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then along came COVID, and just derailed all my plans. I just assumed, rightly so, that nobody was going to buy a business during that particular time. And then, when DC left, uh, and that's a whole nother subject right there.
Sure.
It just threw everything, for a loop. And so I just waited until COVID was over, and then I started reaching out. I tried to find some brokers, and I found a couple different places. There's one called Transamerica Business that's based out of Denver, so I contacted them. And then I also contacted another company called Biz Buy Sell, and
Mm.
I talked to both of those organizations to formulate a plan. And so I put Time Warp basically up for sale on the Biz Buy Sell site, told people how much I wanted for it, and it was out there. And I had a lot of people contact me, and of course they want all your financials.
Sure.
And most of the people don't have a clue about comics. They just want to own a business, which strikes me as really odd, because this is
Yeah.
such a passion project for all of us. You really have to love comics. You can't just say, well, it's a bookstore or it's comics. It sounds interesting. I think
Yeah.
I
I think they
want
have
to.
books and toys and such. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah. So I had a lot of people reach out to me, and I pretty much didn't like most of them. Most of them weren't locals or anything like that.
Yeah.
So coincidentally, and I was starting to get a little worried, to be quite honest with you, as I approached my 40th year. I was like, well, I'm going to be 40 and 70 this year. This is the time when it would be best to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I waited and waited and waited. And then when the 40th anniversary came around last September, uh, I reached out to newspapers and things like that, just to get some coverage, because you always want to, be
Yeah.
out there in the public eye and let people know that this is a big anniversary for us. And so the Westward magazine down in Denver and the local newspaper, the Daily Camera in Boulder, both did big stories on the 40th anniversary and my desire to retire. And on September 30th, I believe, the article came out in the Denver or the Boulder Daily Camera. It was a really good article on a Friday afternoon. Well, that very next morning, a couple people came into the store that I recognized. They read the article. The Kelly Cooke is the gentleman's name, and his dad and he were both customers that came to uh, my monthly auctions that I used to do, and I can go back to that in a sec.
Sure.
Um, but they were intrigued and they were very interested, and they were locals. They are from kind of a suburb of Boulder called Louisville, and it's a husband-wife team, Kelly Cooke and his wife Dottie. Super nice guys. You met them at the comics pro
Yeah,
meet.
they're lovely people. Absolutely lovely.
Not only lovely, but they are sharp as a tack. They're very outgoing and very excited about comics. And so that's what happened. We started negotiating that 1st of October, and by the end of December, it was a done deal. It all got done that fast.
Wow.
Honestly, Adam, I got so lucky to
No
meet
kidding.
to meet the right people at the right time. I
Yeah.
mean, it was unbelievable. I'll tell you, it was a stroke of luck that I still am pinching myself. What just happened? Um, I'm so blessed in that regard, and they're great people. I love them. I truly, truly love them, and they love me, and it's a beautiful partnership right now. But
I don't want to dig too deep into the details, but we've had like uh, uh, an M&A specialist on the show. We've talked about people who bought stores and sold stores. We had a conversation on the live show with Phil Boyle about buying stores. Can you talk without, I don't necessarily need to know numbers, but can you talk about how the valuation was arrived at? Um,
oh man, there's so many different formulas and
I
all out
know.
there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It really is. Oh,
Yeah.
put this number here and
Yeah.
two times this and all
The
that. And
Abita. Yeah.
I looked at all that, and I had a couple of different business evaluations done over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Analyzed all your numbers and came up with a number. And so, and this is probably common knowledge. You can look on the BizBuy site, and I started off. They told me to start off at $400,000. Looking at all my records and all my cash flow and
Sure.
all that. Start there, and that's what I did. And I didn't get that, but I got something I was very happy with.
Well,
And
good. I'm glad
at
to hear
this
that.
point in life, as I've reached, old age, because 70 is considered old age, believe it or not. I looked
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah.
It's just very satisfying to be able to do this at this particular time. But I got off track there. Where was
No,
I?
we were talking about evaluation. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was, yeah.
and the new owners came up with an offer, and I said yeah. And I don't need a lot at my age. That's where I was trying to go with this.
Right.
I'm collecting Social Security as we talked about before. I'm financing the store myself with these people. They gave me a nice down payment,
Right.
and they're making a monthly payment. So between that and Social Security, I, I don't have a lot of needs.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied. I have everything in life I could ever want. I have a
That's
nice
amazing.
house. I have comic books to read anytime I want. I have a car that gets me to and fro. I,
Yeah.
I I'm a simple guy with simple needs, and I'm happy.
I think you won. I think that if this whole thing is a game, where you start at do you want a job in comics and you end somewhere, I think you won that game, because
Thank
it
you.
sounds to me like it's the best possible route you could have gotten. That's
Yeah, and
amazing.
you'd like to see everybody end up
Yeah.
as a winner like that.
Amen.
I mean,
Amen.
go out on top. Like I like to make the John Elway analogy of riding off into the sunset.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're not riding off into the sunset so much as you are like, there, slowly handing the baton over. But yeah, it's I think that's wonderful, wonderful end for that. I think that so what is your weekly now? Like, do you just go in whenever you want? Like I said, we're on a Wednesday, and you
Yeah, I
just
like to go in on Wednesdays because that's New Comic Day, and there's a lot of customers I've really come to love over the years. I really
yeah.
like them, love them, and talk comics with them, and still point out stuff that like this week. I'm very excited about the Batman Hush 2 series that started, and I love the absolute Martian Manhunter.
I
That
heard
that
that's a. I mean,
is
I have a buddy who pulled it out of the box a few days ago and immediately started sending me pictures. He's like, "This is awesome," which is rare, you know, that book.
It is, and I've seen other retailers on Facebook this morning said, well, one guy said, I've been open for 3 hours now and I haven't sold a single copy off the rack. It's like, well, something's wrong there.
That might be you, my friend. That might be
I,
you.
I, I read it twice already. I loved it so much.
Oh
It's
my
just
god.
really heady. It really is, and it's one of those books you can't read online and get the full effect.
Yeah.
There's a part of it on the paper that in the book, and there's something on the last page that if you don't
Oh,
have a physical copy in your hands, you're not going to get it. And so those
you.
are the type of things that are so exciting and so so different, and people are experimenting with different things, and I
Yeah.
admire that. I really like when somebody pushes the envelope like that.
You know
So,
what? I was just saying that you won because financially you've gotten everything you've needed and you're now in a comfortable place and you get to do whatever you want to do. But the fact that that little bit right there of you still being so passionate about the medium and about the product, I think you truly. I mean, I don't know. You're like You're like Olympic level winning at this point. You're like gold medal.
did
Yeah.
I get a gold medal? Really?
Oh yeah, you gold medal, baby.
Yeah, all right. Yes.
um let's go back to a couple things. So you said that you're still doing monthly auctions, or is
Yeah,
that
no, that back.
okay?
I'm doing bi-weekly stream sales.
Okay.
Back in the first 10 years when I was an affiliate of Mile High Comics, I did monthly auctions
Mm,
every single month just to try and cover that nut, that was so
sure.
expensive. I had a basic amount and then 5% of the gross to pay Chuck. So it was basically about $3,000 a month that I needed to cover
Whew,
back in the early 80s. Talk
whew.
about when I talk about the macaroni and cheese, I'm not exaggerating.
I have no
It was
doubt.
tough, but those auctions helped a lot, and I'd get big crowds. And Kelly Cooke, as I mentioned earlier, was one of those youngsters back then that would come to the auctions, and his dad would come, and he bought a bunch of stuff and was very, very excited about comics back then. And so we did those for 10 years. And then after that 10 years, when I finished paying off Mile High, I would do them once a year. And then
Okay.
finally, once every 5 years, we did one for our 40th anniversary. And one of the big advantages of that was paying off bills. And that was good. That helped pay off Mile High, and it was fun. Chuck started those auctions before I did, and I
Yeah.
learned from him. And he still does auctions. I think once a month even.
Yeah.
And
I've
he's still
been to the I think he did a couple of those at San Diego. Um
yes,
and I just loved his energy with doing that. I mean, it was like story time
yeah.
with Chuck.
It's the same thing with our biweekly stream sales. Now this they came about during COVID, right after COVID, when we were starting to open up all our stores again. Um, I had a couple retailer friends that I like to call them our sister store down in Denver. They own a store called I Want More Comics.
I know those guys. They're lovely. Yeah. I love
They're
those guys.
Keith and Sean,
Yeah.
great friends. We're equals in this industry, and uh, when they were first starting out, they were customers of my store, and they used my store layout and design to start their store, and they insisted that I look into these Facebook live stream sales because they had already started. and we're
Yeah.
having great success. And I was like, that's not really me. I don't want to stand in front of a microphone all day. And well, it's only 2 hours a day, but I just don't see the the way that these are going to make a whole lot of money. I don't know. I just don't feel right about it. But they said, well, let us come up and we'll do one for you in your store, and then you can decide if that's something you want.
You'll see
Well,
how
they
it
came
goes.
up and they did one, and at the end of it, and it went really well. They gave me their microphones, their cameras, their little tent to put things in because they'd upgraded, and mine are still good. But they said, "Here you go. This is everything you
What?
need to do this." They showed us everything, and ever since I've been doing them every other week, all these years after the pandemic. And quite honestly, I don't even know if I'd be in business right now without them.
Yeah.
Plus, my rent in Boulder uh, was about $7,000 a month. These two stream sales that we do every other week would pay for about a third of my rent every month. So without that, it would have been kind of a struggle the last few years, to tell you the truth, because it's really helped pay that high rent.
Sure.
And I've gotten to really love them and enjoy them, to tell you the truth. They're a lot of work.
Sure.
I curate about 60, 65 items every other week. And I recommend stores do them. I mean, I know a lot of stores are, and I know a lot of stores aren't. But I certainly would recommend trying something like that out.
No kidding. That's
They're
awesome.
fun. They're really fun, and I put stuff I love in there. So I'm very passionate about a lot of different things that I've read over the books I've read over the years, and I want
Right.
people to enjoy. So I try and go out and find stuff in my collection, stuff in the store, wherever I can find it that brings back great memories, or I think would be something I'd like to turn people onto that I really, really enjoyed. Because frankly, Adam, I have damn good taste. Uh, I know if I like it, other
It's
people
good.
don't.
You know it's good if you like it. If it passes
Oh,
the
yeah,
Wayne test.
that's right. And it's good. Go out there and you buy those damn absolute Martian Manhunters, by golly, because they're good.
Oh, well, save one for me though. That's I have to go get mine. I'm realizing I got to make time to go to the shop this week.
Yeah.
Uh All right. I wanted to go back then. One more thing that you mentioned earlier. I want to make sure that we covered. You talked about COVID, how you survived that, and we've talked a bit about the breakup. But you also hinted that you had some stuff to say about the decisions that led to the distribution breakup. Now, personally, to me, they feel inevitable, and I know this because I was saying this is inevitable before COVID, and then when it happened, I was like, see. But I'm curious to know from those who feel like that this could have been, maybe that's not. I don't know what your position is. I'll let you voice it.
Well, I've known Steve Jeppy for all the years and before
Sure.
that, and I love him. I think he's great. I think he's done so much for the comic book industry. Is he perfect? No, but he cares. He's always really, really cared.
Sure.
And so when the pandemic came along, and we couldn't open,
Yeah.
and there was nothing we could do. So if we were getting shipments still from Diamond, I don't, and had to pay for them and had no customers to sell them to, you know, it would have been a disaster. And so when DC left, uh, I was pretty perturbed about it, to tell you the truth, because I thought that they abandoned ship at a really important time, and it just really rubbed me the wrong way. And then Marvel went and did the same thing, and all the other publishers kind of broke away from Diamond. And we all complained for so many years about Diamond's monopoly. I didn't, but a lot of other people did. I had no problems with
Sure.
Diamond ever. They treated me very, very well. Um, I was reading on Heidi's column. I think it was Brian's Tilting at Windmills, talking about that whole time when things were so difficult, and I really believe that it was a really tough time, and I don't like how it played out, to tell you the truth.
Hmm.
I don't know how you feel about it or how anybody else feels about it, but um,
To me, it feels. I can see there are plenty of. I can definitely see your side of it. I don't really have a position. I'll be honest. I've at this point been, I don't know, lucky enough or connected enough or whatever to have heard essentially all sides of that as it was going on. And since then, like, I feel like I have a pretty good viewpoint on why the decisions that were made, and what things Diamond did right and what they maybe didn't do right, and vice versa too, right? There's plenty of that to go around. So I don't necessarily have a feeling for whether or not they should or should not have. I can definitely see why they did, and I know where that pressure was, where that came from. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things. Like I said, I felt like it was inevitable. It was going to happen at some point.
I agree.
And it was like a weak spot in a balloon. At some point, there's just the right amount of friction popped it, and that weak spot wasn't going away. It just needed that friction. So
But it
yeah,
was tough. It was tough to see. People were hurt. You
yeah,
know,
sure,
and it'll all probably work out in the end. But in the meantime, it was very difficult to see everything happening at once right then. It was a critical time in the comic book industry, just like it was yesterday.
sure,
Going forward, it's one of
absolutely.
those historic times.
Um, looking back on who Wayne 1984 Wayne was, right? And who 1994 Wayne was, coming out of paying Chuck and getting to eat something other than macaroni and cheese. If you were looking at this, Kelly and I'm sorry, I don't remember Kelly's wife's name.
Dottie.
Dottie. So Kelly and Dottie, they made a decision to buy the shop during this period. I'm sure you think that's an amazing, very smart idea. But would you, like, looking back on it, young Wayne, would you be starting a shop right now? Would you be buying an established store? This is the kind of period where you'd be wanting to expand? Like, what is, looking back on it now, if you're, let's say you're a younger man knowing what you know,
Mm-hmm.
what would you be doing right this moment for Time Warp?
That's a good question. Again, I like to think positive. I don't think I would expand. I'm sure I wouldn't, because it's just too much of a gamble. Would I start a store at this point? I don't know. It just kind of fell into my lap back then. I loved comics, and when the opportunity rose, I jumped at it. But times are a lot different right now, so I don't know. That's a question I've never even contemplated, to tell you the truth. Honestly, thinking about it right now, whether I would try to start it on my own with my personal comic collection, find a little hole in the wall and start out small, and hopefully
Sure.
that it exploded at some point, maybe. But most there are a lot of places, I guess, that don't have comic book stores, but most small cities or big cities like mine already have established businesses right now.
Yeah.
And, several stores have tried to come in and open in Boulder, and all failed. And honestly, the only thing I can point to is we did our jobs right, and we've always been really big on customer service, and one of the things that enticed me to buy my store back in that time is, when I was a kid, I would get very frustrated with the newsstand distribution network, because I would go, to a grocery store or drugstore or whatever to get a comic, and the next month they wouldn't have the next one. It was just
Yeah.
really, really spotty. And being a comic completist like I was, or still am, I want the next issue. I want those numbers 699. I want 700. I want 701. And I was a little bit, frustrated by all that back then.
Sure.
And, I wanted to make sure that if somebody came into my store and wanted something, they would find it. So to this day, that's a big thing for me is getting people what they want. We do special orders for people. We trade with other stores. We get things from the big boys and trade with that place down in Texas.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I can to get somebody what they want. I don't care how long it takes. If they want it, I'm going to try and find it.
Yeah.
So that's been part of the business model in all these years. So I don't know if I was just starting out, if I'd want to start out small and hopefully grow bigger, or whether I would buy an established business. It's nice, and I appreciate that I have sold my established business.
Yeah.
Very proud of what we built up all these years. So
I think reasonably so. I think you have every reason to be proud of what you've built. From what I hear from people who've shopped at Time Warp, and from the people I know who have been there, who we both know, it's you built something really wonderful, and I think I think it goes to that you're having such a lovely transition out of it. Speaking of that, where are you? How are you enjoying retirement?
Well, it's not quite retirement yet,
Yeah.
since I'm working part-time at the store, but
How long will that be? Is this like a short
it's
period?
6 months. So,
Okay.
It's going to be the end of the third month here next week. So I've got 3 more months, but they want me to be around for a lot longer than that. I'll always be a part of the store. If
Yeah.
they continued with the store's name, there's still going to be Time Warp. So that's a great honor to see that continue, because quite frankly, I was concerned about a legacy. That's kind of a goofy thing to say, but I wanted to
Oh,
leave my mark on the world somehow, some way.
yeah,
And
of course.
this
Yeah.
is it. I mean, it was always important to me. I don't know why. It was just like I worked so hard for so long, I didn't want to see it go away.
Yeah. No kidding. I can see
And
that.
and and these lovely people will continue the legacy of Time Warp for years to come. And
How did you come up with that name, by the way?
well, that's another good question. As you can see, the logo has a dinosaur and a spaceship.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So the the term I have on the back of the shirt says "where the past meets the future,"
Okay.
and there was the Rocky Horror Picture Show back then.
Mm.
Let's do the
Do the
Time
time warp
Warp
again.
again. And
Yep.
since I had the dinosaur in the spaceship in my mind at that time, I also had the, like the science fiction fantasy, and I also played a pinball machine at CU when I was going to college there. There was a Time Warp
Yeah.
pinball machine,
I know that
which I
machine.
still have. I bought that machine later on, the
Yeah.
same machine I played at CU.
Aw, that's awesome.
So between the science fiction fantasy and the Rocky Horror Picture Show and that pinball machine, I was just walking down in the Pearl Street Mall one day, and it just popped into my head, and I said, I like that. I really like that
Aw,
name. So that's where Time Warp came from.
that's really great. You talked about your love of Philip K. Dick. I have this lifelong love of Robert Heinlein. And as I get older, I get further and further away with him, agreeing with him politically, but he's still very special to me, and occasionally we'll pick up, I still, to this day, if I can't go to sleep, the one thing that will work is I put on the audiobook for Stranger in a Strange Land.
Oh, great. That's
And but it is such a strange experience reading those books that were written in the 40s and 50s about even 40, 50 years from now. It's still such an odd experience seeing that, and or some of the things that they thought were going to be so futuristic and so crazy are just it's just what we deal with. It's kind
I
of the
want
day
my
to day.
flying car now.
I know. We could just get a stupid flying cars locked in. Wayne, what do you think is the biggest threat facing comics retail, the direct market specifically? What do you think is the biggest threat facing us now?
I always say Amazon, but I don't know if that's right or not. There's all kinds of threats. There's so many things that um, distract people now. There's so many things that you can do besides reading comics. There's, the whole digital universe is just crazy right now.
Mm-hmm.
AI, of course, is a huge threat, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Frickin' hate it. I hate it. Um,
It's an existential threat that is not going to slow down for any of
no,
us.
it's taken over the world.
Oh, and yeah, it will continue to. Yeah.
Terminator's coming. Let's start it now. There, there's video games. There's all the stuff on computers that the kids nowadays
Yeah.
don't really want to read. Everything is so accessible to them online and on their phones and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So people, time sucks everywhere. Even Facebook,
Yeah. Sure.
takes away from people's enjoying. And I get on there a lot and get sucked in, and that takes away from my reading time.
Sure.
So everything's a threat right now, to be quite honest. I mean, name it. What
Yeah.
isn't a threat? That's a better question.
Well, I think of it as I think of it as we live in an attention-based economy, right? That is what it is. It's not about money anymore. It's about attention and time. And I think that comics is, don't get me wrong, it's very antiquated in some ways, and it's very, it feels like a time warp. It feels like something from the past almost when you look around. But I don't know. I think it punches above its weight class. It still is people are still discovering comics and still falling in love with, the stuff that you and I fell in love with.
Right. And that's a good point, because every single day we have people come in, and I'm not exaggerating, that have never even read comic books and want to start
Mm-hmm.
or used to. And now they've got more money. Their families are taken care of and everything. They want to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
They see the TV shows, the movies, and people talking about it. Oh, San Diego Comic-Con, look at that. And, everybody is aware. Back
Yeah.
when I was a kid in high school, and when I first started the store, I kind of hid that I read comic books because they were
Sure.
so looked down on. I would get on an airplane to go somewhere, and I put the comic inside something else, Popular Mechanics, to read on the plane or whatever. I was embarrassed. People made fun of us. Oh, you going to do some heavy reading tonight, eh?
Yeah.
And now it's just so much more accessible and respected. Like I was saying before, there's college courses that have, graphic novels as a curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So, times have really, really changed. And those courses, most of the major universities have those now.
Yeah.
So, and people are excited with it. Oh, I didn't even know comics were a thing, so it's still a very, very exciting time.
I
Don't get me wrong.
I absolutely agree. And there's a reason that it feels like every year or two I go, am I wasting my life? Should I be doing something, maybe, I don't know, tech, or something? I don't know, but this still feels important, right? This still feels like it's something that needs to be shared, and it's something that people still discover and obviously are excited about. And that is important, right? That is the kind of what we want. That culture is important. So
Yeah,
yeah.
don't uh, bad mouth comics in your store. Don't say what isn't good or anything like that. Tell people what you're excited about. That's
Yes.
what they want. They want you to be excited and excite them, you know? So if you're all, oh God, I guess I'll go in the back room and play some games or something. I'll go play Magic or something, which I see a lot in stores. No, be excited. If you're excited, your customers will be excited.
I cannot think of a better way to wrap this up and kind of I can't think of a better way to encapsulate the Wayne energy and then that little tirade. So I think we could probably kind of bring this in for a landing. Do you do the tweets? Are you on the social medias? Is there any place that people can contact you or do you just really just want to be left alone to go read comics?
No. You know, the Time Warp Facebook posts are both live right now. The websites, or not the websites, the Time Warp contacts.
Yeah.
We've been switching our emails around. The new owners, Kelly and Dottie, want their own email, and I have my own now, my own site actually, which I call Waco Comics, WAYCO So I'm on Facebook as that right now, and Wayne WINSETT. So, but we're very easy to get in touch with through emails or websites or whatever. We're easy to get in touch with. So if anybody has any questions, please reach out for sure.
Wonderful. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for taking the time out of your weirdly busy retirement. I really do appreciate it.
It's an honor. I love what you do. You're one of the most important people in this industry to me, and I love what you're doing. So keep it up, buddy.
Stop it. All right, I gotta go before I get emotional. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everybody else. And what is your problem if you haven't liked and subscribed already? I know it's something I'm supposed to say at the top, but I don't want to do it. You've listened all the way to the end. Just subscribe.
Exactly.
Right. This message is brought to you by the Prana Bullet. What is the Prana Bullet? I'm glad you asked. It's a weekly newsletter dropped in your inbox every Friday. It's designed to keep you up to speed on that week in the comics industry, and our goal is to keep it light, to keep it informative, and I swear to you, we're going to keep it easy to skim. Each week, we're always looking for new things to learn about our comics industry and the changing landscape that it is, and this is the one place where you can catch up on everything you might have missed. Plus, the monthly Prana bestseller list is going to drop here first. If that sounds like the news you need, head over to pranadm.com and sign up today. That's PRANADM.com and sign up. And if you do, I'll see you this Friday.